Hello and welcome to Writing Better Sentences. You can think of this like sentence boot camp. I know a lot of times people expect that by the time you get to fourth and fifth and sixth grade that you're already a master at writing sentences. But I find that fifth graders especially have forgotten some of the rules of sentence writing and then have a hard time making their writing look as professional as it really is because you guys are masters at ideas. Your story maps are amazing, but when we're reading your writing, a lot of times it gets lost in trying to figure out where your sentence is. So we're going to spend this week doing kind of a sentence boot camp, and we're going to work on writing better sentences. I've got lots of strategies that I'm excited to share with you. So let's get started. And before we dive in too far, I want to remind you that better sentences automatically means better writing. Because if your sentences are better, the reader will pay more attention and they'll be able to see what you're really saying. All right, so today we're going to talk about simple sentences. You can think of this as like the most basic level of sentences. So we're going to look at what makes a sentence a sentence. So all complete sentences, meaning it really is a sentence, so I'm going to underline that, complete sentences have two things. They have a subject and they have a verb. Those are the big ideas. So let's start by looking at subjects. And I'm going to make subjects, let's see, we'll pick a different color we haven't used. Let's use purple for our subjects. So all complete sentences have a subject. The subject, which I've got going in purple, is the noun. Remember, a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. And it's the noun the sentence is about. Some examples of subjects would be my orange cat. Now in this one, cat is the noun, but I'm going to include all the parts of the subject. Whose cat is it? It's mine. What color is it? It's orange. So the subject is my orange cat. Another subject could be a thing, the broken clock. And again, clock is the noun. That's the thing, but the broken clock, I've used an adjective to describe the noun. All of this together is the subject. Ooh, here's a tricky one, anger. Anger isn't a person, a place, or a thing, but it is an idea. Just like freedom and kindness and friendship, those are all ideas. Hunger is an idea. All of those things are still nouns, and so that's the subject. And here I've got a great big long one, the new Nintendo Switch game. That can be my subject. Game is really my noun, but I've given you more information to make it a really specific noun, like we've been tackling in our mentor sentences. So I didn't just say the game. I said the new Nintendo Switch game because I want you to see all the details. And then let's take a look over here at the second part of complete sentences, and that's the verb. All complete sentences have a subject and a verb. So the verb, if you'll remember, is the action in the sentence. It's what the subject does. So I can say leaps, that's a verb. Is a verb, so is silent. Is one of those tricky ones that doesn't sound like a verb, but it really is. Destroys is a verb. Oh, here's is again, is easy. These are all examples of the verb. It's what my subject in my sentence is doing. So that's the first part to understanding complete sentences. I need a subject, I need a verb. All right, so to make a complete, simple sentence, we need to put the subject and the verb together. So I've got my subject and my verb. When I put them together, I've got a complete sentence. There's my subject and there's my verb. And I like to use, I heard this somewhere and I love it. It helps my brain think about adding punctuation. We can use the subject verb chomp. So when I think of the subject verb chomp, I think about the fact that my sentence has a subject and then has a verb, and that chomp, just like the Mario plant here, that chomp is the period or the punctuation at the end. Now, you could have different punctuation. You could have like a exclamation mark or a question mark, but all of those sentences, I've got my subject and my verb, and then I chomp to show I've bitten off that sentence as a whole piece. So let's take a look at this first sentence. I have the subject, my orange cat, and then I have the verb, leaps. My orange cat leaps. And then I can chomp. Chomp. There's the period at the end. My orange cat leaps. That's one sentence. I needed to end with punctuation there. When I'm going to start my next sentence, I'm ready to do that. But by adding the period at the end like a chomp, I made sure that was a sentence. And I knew it was a complete sentence because I've got a subject and I've got a verb. Let's use this same strategy for the next one. The broken clock is silent. The broken clock. There's my subject. And my verb is, remember is always a verb, is silent. Chomp. That's the end of that sentence, so I need punctuation. This is the big idea that starts us in writing better sentences. I start with a capital, I've got a subject and a verb, and then I chomp. Let's try one more, and then the last one I'm going to have you try on your own. Anger destroys. Ooh, the idea was my subject. My subject is anger. And then destroys is the verb. It's what anger is doing. Anger destroys. Right? Subject, verb, chomp. I've got punctuation at the end. There we go. So this is the strategy we're working on today. We're going to be building sentences that have a subject, that have a verb, and then you chomp with that punctuation at the end. The next slide, I'm going to ask you to try this last sentence on your own. You're going to be asked to highlight in purple the subject, or underline, I should say. Underline in red the verb, and then use yellow to identify the punctuation. And then I'm going to ask you to build some subject-verb chomp sentences. We're going to work on this even if you're thinking, I already know this, Mrs. Reef. Well, that's great. Then it'll be easy for you. But for a lot of us, we need a chance to practice this because we're going to start building from this concept to make more and more complex sentences so that your writing reflects all your great ideas. All right, on the next slide, you'll get to work.